everybody, Alan Arnette here with another podcast and a blog on alanarnette.com. It is Monday, September the 8th, 2025, and we have the world famous trash collector, Ryan Mitchell. Hey,
Yes,
Ryan.
I'm glad that's what I'm being known for.
Yeah, I know you go, go climb Everest, you do all this other stuff. You got this killer YouTube channel, and yeah, now you're just a trash collector.
Yeah, no, it was really fun picking up trash on K2. It was actually way more fun than I thought it was gonna be. Because you're out there and you're just kind of looking for these little I don't know, for me it was like a game of looking for little antique things,
Yeah.
but picking up the trash because some of the stuff was like, okay, you got the plastic bottles, you got random. I mean, you'll see in some of the videos I'm going to be posting, like there's literal bags of like food just dumped inside of Glacier, and we don't even know if that's old or it's new, if it's from this year or not. But sometimes you'd find cool things. Like we found a couple sites on one of our hikes from like old camps, like decades ago, 50 plus years, and there was like film that we found. So we're actually going to try and see if we can develop that. So there's like super old batteries, cans, cooking supplies. It was pretty fun, interesting stuff out there.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's absolutely 100% good that you were able to collect that like 600 pounds, something like that.
Yeah, we got over 600 pounds, which
Yeah.
is pretty solid. All just from base camp and advanced base camp. Would have been nice to, the advanced base camp stuff was super cool. Because it's all getting avalanche down from the higher camps. So you'd find tents. Funny story, there was one of the Sherpas, Dawa Tenji, he was climbing House's chimney and there's a snow spindrift that came off. This was 2022, I think. And he like shook his head and he had a GoPro on and it knocked the GoPro off. And we actually found it
Oh, wow.
at the base. That's how dry it was. Everything that kind of came up through the last few years was just rising through the snow at Advanced Base Camp. So that was super fun.
It's interesting though that when I was there now 11 years ago, that Camp 2 had a lot of shredded tents, but the rest
Yeah.
of the camps were all pretty clean. And so I think that the fact that it was a dry year this year, actually revealed a lot of the trash that normally would be underneath snow or hidden by rocks or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. No, there's tons of cans, fuel cans for sure. That was probably the bulk of our weight, honestly. Maybe even half of it was just empty fuel cans.
And that's probably the worst thing to leave on a mountain because of the environmental pollution.
Metal. Yeah, it's just metal. I mean,
Yeah.
we went up past Advanced Base Camp. For a second, I thought this was going to be the highest we got on the mountain, but fortunately, we made a summit push later. But walked up past Advanced Base Camp a little bit, and we found just like littered everywhere with these fuel cans. So like we had to get them down to our trash bags, which were at like the Advanced Base Camp. So we're just like hucking them down to the bottom, and they're all like floating down there and just rolling into the same spot. It was super fun. I was way more fun than I thought it was going to be. So, I was like, okay, we're gonna make a good impact. It's gonna suck a little bit. We're at altitude, but no, I was enjoying it.
I love it. Now you have another career to fall back on if this
Yeah.
YouTube stuff doesn't work out.
Oh, I could put in a good resume for any waste management, trash man
Ryan
secured.
Mitchell, trash collector extraordinaire. All right,
Yeah.
so I want to start this interview with I want to start at the end and work backwards. So this is going to be a little strange. So
Okay.
my first question, and you don't know this, we haven't talked about this. So this is going to come out of the blue to you. So Ryan, you went to K2, you got to Camp 1, Tyree called it. What did you learn from 2 months on the mountain?
Ooh, yeah, it's a hard-hitting question. I know we haven't really talked too much since we got back, so this is a little bit of our decompressing and just analyzing, I guess. But yeah, we went up we were sitting around base camp the whole time. And what was it, day 45 that we finally made a push? The whole rest of the team had left. And obviously, everyone knew it was super dangerous, right? We had known since the moment we got there, it was extremely, extremely dry. You could hear rockfall. I'm actually editing one of the videos right now, and we are climbing an unclimbed peak. First of all, because of the rockfall, so we can acclimatize. But while we were at the base of that camp, you can hear rockfall in the GoPro from K2. That's how loud and, extreme it was. So it was clearly a bad season. The conditions weren't optimal. So in most cases, you would call it there. If this was a cascade climb and I wasn't as connected to it, I didn't have as much on the line, I would have said, okay, you know what, let's just try this again another time. But of course, there's such a reason to keep going because you've just spent so much time out there. You spent so much money to be here, and your next attempt is going to be next year. You're gonna have to wait so long. Um, and then that's just kind of summit fever, right?
Right.
Is you have all these reasons to go up, and you have all these conditions telling you not to, and the mountain is not inviting you to go up. Um, that's just summit fever right there. So we did end up trying because, there's a lot of other teams going up, and we had never even seen the route for ourselves. We just had heard other people talking about it, but we wanted to make an attempt, and we got on the route. It was just way too dangerous. I have footage of rocks flying to my right past us. I mean, like it was probably, yeah, it's probably one of my scariest mountaineering moments. Some of the like rocks. Purbo was in the front. He'd yell, "Rock, rock." We just duck down and you'd hear like a helicopter fly by your head. I'm sure you heard some of that on your, it's the scariest noise
Yeah.
of like that. It's like, oh my gosh, if that was 3 feet down left, that would have completely took my head off. Um, but yeah, it was a really hard decision. I don't want people to think that I made the calls, right? It was I was very drawn. I had a lot of summit fever and I was thinking of a lot of things. I was thinking, okay, what do I personally want? What does my gut say? What do I want to also make my message to the people watching my videos? One person I look up to a lot is, Ed Viesers in his book because of all the times he turned around. It's like, what would he do in this situation? Or what would Alan do in this situation, right? So it's a lot of these things going through your head. You're also thinking of the Sherpa team. I'm the only client here. So if I call it, everybody can come down and be safe.
You had
So
like
there's like a lot
three
of
other
pressure.
clients that all left, right?
Yes. Yeah, there's two other K2 climbers. There's a broad peak climber, but they had all left.
Yeah.
So they had just like we were in there in August. Nobody's ever on K2 in August. So
No,
we had
that's
just
not quite true. There have been August
yeah.
summits. You know that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But nobody anticipated on it.
Right.
So they had work obligations like past August 10th. But everybody left, so I was really drawn and I had a ton of conversations with Terray and Purba to see where their heads were at. And it just, you know, Terray obviously was like, yeah, this is pretty dangerous, dude. Like, I wouldn't be climbing this. I don't really want to guide it either, It's like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, it's like, dang, like, I really don't want to get anybody on our team hurt because there's like, I mean, what we had, every Sherpa that still came up. So there's 3 Sherpas at Camp 2, then it was Purba, Teray, and I at Camp 1, and then we also had 2 porters with us. So, there's a lot of people that could potentially get hit by rocks. So it just made so much sense to go back that night after we got to Camp 1 because it was, yeah, you could have summited, and people did summits, and they knew the risks they were taking on, and we know what happened, right? Um, and I don't know if I would have if I had summited and I saw that happen and everything, like I don't know if I would have felt good about summiting. I think someone on my Instagram commented, his name's Liam. He said I think it was like the real strength is knowing you could continue but turning back anyways, something like that. Um, it was the right thing to do. So yeah, I'm pretty bummed. I was definitely really bummed. And I was back and forth between like, okay, I was the last client. I technically, just like all the other teams who had their clients, apparently there's some arguments going on with the Sherpas and the clients of the other teams, as there probably always is on these mountains. I was thinking, oh, I probably could have still gone up if I had really said I wanted to. Um, but yeah, I think it was the right call, and the mountain wasn't inviting us this year. And, next year when we summit again, or I mean, when we try again and summit, I'm going to be glad that I didn't take that opportunity this year to go for the summit because it wasn't safe and it's not good mountaineering ethics and also just strategy to push up in such dangerous conditions. What a
So
rant.
my question was, what did you learn? Um,
Yeah, that was a ramble. I mean, I guess what did I learn? I mean, I guess it's just if the mountain's not inviting you to go up it, don't go up it. It doesn't matter how much you have on the line.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if, you have millions watching or you've spent tens of thousands of dollars. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You have to distance yourself away from that and just think in a perspective of like, okay, what is the right thing to do here?
Yeah. One thing I've learned over the years is that you take what the mountain will give you. And if the mountain is not going to give you access, then don't fight the mountain. You got to be humble and you got to take, what the mountain gives you.
Yeah.
So if you had to do it all over again, what would you do different?
I mean, it's impossible to say because, well, we didn't know, right? Because I could say, oh, I wouldn't have waited as long, but the whole idea was, we were waiting for snow the entire time, so the rock fall wouldn't be as bad,
Right.
or we could wait for more teams to leave. So then our biggest worry was not just us going to Camp One, because that was the most dangerous part. Like we
Right.
had gotten a really dangerous part out of the way. But the issue was coming down with all the other teams, which, it's not good, as we saw. And all of those people coming down at the same time, kicking rocks, just bad news. Lots of injuries, even deaths this year from that. So there's just no way of really knowing what could have happened or what happens every year. But I guess I don't know. I think with the conditions we had and with the information we had, we made the best of it. What would I do differently though? I don't know. I don't know if I would do anything differently, honestly.
Okay. That's fair enough. Yeah, there were five deaths across the Karakoram, one on Layla Peak, one on Nanga Parbat, and then two on the K2. And I forgot the fifth one, but they all were from Rockfall. So it was just
Even
a,
the one on Nanga Parbat too.
yeah,
Or oh dang.
yeah,
Yeah, bad season. I know Colin Haley was trying K7 and he'd even make it out of base camp.
yeah. Well, that
It
was the
was
case with a lot of people. I mean, and those that did go up, like my friend Ryan Kushner on Broad Peak, I posted a video on the last blog I did of this river of just flowing rock coming down, and he said it was the scariest thing he's ever experienced. So,
yeah,
yeah.
it is
So
scary. You can't defend yourself against a rock flying at you besides trying to dodge it. There's like no pushing out of the way. It's just
no,
you
you
get
really
hit.
can't. I mean, like Gare McDonald, a friend of mine that he actually died on K2 in 2008, but in 2006 he was on it and in the same area, right, but underneath Camp One, rock came down and hit him in the head. He was wearing a really good helmet. He still got a concussion. And then Kami Sherpa, who I've climbed a lot with, Kami got a dislocated shoulder from a rock hitting him. So there were this year there were a lot of injuries as well that weren't widely reported. Were,
Very true.
were you aware? Were you aware of all those injuries?
Yes, many. I mean, yeah, none of them were really reported either. You're right.
Yeah, we'll
It's
talk about
it's
the comms in a
really
minute, but
interesting.
let me ask you another impossible question that you can't answer, but that's what I do.
We're working backwards. Yeah, these are usually the hard hitters at the end.
So I know. Yeah, this is normally the end of the interview.
Oh, it's good
So,
stuff.
what advice would you give to yourself in June of this year about climbing K2?
Okay, that's interesting. Because I've been envisioning this climb for the last year and a half,
Right.
and I would say. I know I made a video and I said in it before I left, I said, don't expect a summit, but I was really
Yeah.
expecting a summit at the, like, 90% of me was like, oh, we're summiting this and it's going to be huge. It's going to be awesome. And I was kind of like rewarding myself before I had even been there, right?
Hmm.
In a weird way. Um, so it was this, yeah, I didn't think of the worst things that could happen at a realistic level. And yeah, I had that in my head. It's really hard to do that though. When you're so excited about a climb and you've prepared it for so long, you're not going to be like keeping your emotions down because you know that it could not work out. So I'd probably just tell myself to be more realistic and um, it'll save yourself some letdown if you don't summit. Because I was pretty let down and things weren't looking good, but you knew it was just such a messed up situation because when things weren't looking good on the mountain. And, Terray, the rest of the team, is leaving. Terray saying that, the conditions are not good. This is pretty dangerous. But, if we wanted to wait another week, we can to see if it improves. So not only is your hope kind of gone, but you're like, you have a little bit of hope to stick it out for a week, and it's like psychological torture. So I kept getting let down in that sense. So I'd probably just want to be more real with myself and be like, hey, something like this can happen. And now I really know it can happen like that.
So that's really interesting that you said on your I remember on the video you said, hey, I may not summit, it'll be up to, see what happens. But in your heart, you thought you would summit.
Yeah, it wasn't really that I thought, yeah, I guess I did say that a second ago, but it was like I had a lot of expectations. My expectations were really high. Um, and I would like envision it, and I just had it. I just was really hopeful, right?
Yeah.
And it's good to be hopeful, but it's also important to be realistic with yourself. Um, so it's not that I was lying in the video. I don't want that to be like the
No, 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 that's
the
not what I'm
idea, but it
suggesting
was
either. No. No, I
it
think you were
was
just being, I think you were being realistic, actually. And I think a lot of people echoed that back to you. At least they did to me on the comments that I saw.
yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, it's I wanted to be realistic as possible for that video and give like a actual like due diligent like message out there and what was right to go into this climb thinking. But obviously, in the car ride, you're driving, you got the music playing, you're thinking about the climb that you got coming up. It's really hard to be in the same position. So most of the time I was fantasizing about it a lot and like really getting my hype up and hopes up. But then yeah, I just wish I had like been like, okay, let's dial it back a little bit and just be real here. So we're not in the trenches after we end up calling it. But
Yeah,
probably would be anyways.
it is the old adage of that you hope for the best and plan for the worst. So I think you have to go into a climb assuming that you're going to do your best, and and if you summit, that's great. But the big thing is, try to have a positive experience, try to make a difference, try to come home being a better version of yourself. But let's dive a little bit deeper into the emotional side of this, and we'll talk about the climbing as well. But um, so from an emotional perspective, was it, I, I think I sent this to you, but I sent it to several people that I call it the climber's depression. And there's three outcomes that happens when you go on a climb. One is that you summit. That's great. The second is that you summit and it was your fault that you didn't summit because you didn't train hard enough or, something. And then you come home, you're kicking yourself. And the third one, though, is the most difficult. And that's what you're going through. And that is that you don't summit and it wasn't you. It was something out of your control. And I always say that then you go through the five stages of climber's denial. That first stage is you're pissed off. The second stage is that you're dejected. Third stage involves heavy drinking. The fourth step is that you sleep a lot. And the fifth step is you start planning the next climb. So where are you on the five stages of a climber's denial?
Oh gosh, I think I'm at the end of it. I think I'm already planning the next climb. I have Ama de Blanc booked with Justin in a month and a half, so
All
we're going
right.
back to Nepal already, just him and I. But fortunately, I felt all of those things. I just think in a relatively short time frame. Like I was definitely, yeah, you're like you go from this really big high, you're finally pushing up, but then it all crumbles down. And yeah, I definitely felt anger. I was like, I can't believe this happened. The worst luck, one of the worst years on K2 just happened to be while I was there.
Right.
It was like, this is so unfair. But then I was like, okay, life is unfair. So you got to move on. Who gives a shit? You got to move on and just make the most of it. And at one point, you're gonna get to play another game and maybe you'll get better cards, but you're not going to be able to get to that next game unless if you move on from the last. So
Maybe that's what
I,
you learned. Maybe that's the
yeah,
lesson.
yeah, definitely. No, the seeing like the amount of, I think this was really fortunate. It was, like I said, obviously I was bummed, but at one point or another, I'm going to be very glad that we went through it because you we're able to see exactly how much conditions and luck, I guess luck, yeah, chance plays into these climbs, and you have to just look at them and think,
Yeah.
okay, well, we can probably get way better odds next time and be safe and actually have a good chance at summiting. But yeah,
Yeah, you mentioned Ed earlier, Ed Viesters. I think on Shush, that I think he tried it 3 or 4 times, and his first three attempts, his early attempts, just I mean, the mountain was just bad conditions, and that's the contract that you make with these mountains that you don't know what you don't know. You can get all the beta that you can out there, and then once you get to the mountain, then you've got to make a game time decision as to whether it's safe or not. And I personally, and I've gotten some criticism for saying this, but I personally think that the the organizations, the guide companies that left and did not make a summit attempt, they showed more leadership than the companies that did go and summited. Because, one of the clients died on the descent from rockfall. I mean, it was a known hazard, known objective hazard, and it was higher than in previous. It was always been high on K2. I mean, that's in the contract, but this year
Yeah.
was especially hard. So, did you guys? How much did you talk about that danger
Uh, all the time, right?
all the
I
time?
mean, it's just a conversation in the tent is, whenever we would wait every day. We got it at 1 p.m., the weather forecast. And we'd be hoping for snow or something
Right.
or colder temperatures, but we were always talking about it. And it was always a discussion among the team, the Sherpas, Terray. So yeah, we definitely chatted about it a lot.
Was there a difference in opinion between Terray and the Sherpas, or were they pretty much on the same page?
They were on the same page, I would say. I mean, they all thought it was dangerous. Madison's Sherpa team they're so great, they're so smart.
And
Um,
experience.
yeah, for sure. Obviously, I think the responsibility is more on Teray though, just because he's like the leader of the expedition. So
Right.
they're probably just gonna follow a little bit more of what he says than do what they want.
Yeah. Hey, talk about the trek in. For me, that I think that trek up the Baltero Glacier is arguably the best in the entire world. I mean,
Yep.
we both loved the trek in the Khumbu. You're going to go back again to Amana Blanc. You're going to experience that again in a month and a half. But I mean, just walking up that Baltero is just
Yeah.
out of the world. Nameless Tower and all that stuff, and G4 and crazy.
Yeah. I remember you saying like it is better than because I think you said you thought it was better than the Everest Base Camp trek,
Yeah,
and I agree. Like it was stunning. First day was a little bit, it was all right, but second day just started getting
yeah,
so much better once you really got into those mountains. 'Cause all the peaks are so new, right?
yeah,
Geologically, they're just so pointy,
yeah.
and they were just so stunning. Versus the ones in the Himalaya are a little bit more like wide and I don't know, maybe. I don't know rocks, but they definitely are way pointier and sharp and scary looking than stuff in the Himalayas.
It's crazy though, because you're on the Baltero, and on both sides you've got these 22,000 foot peaks that just rise on both sides, and just it's like a valley,
You're right
surrounded
in
by rocks. Yeah,
sandwiched in between. You're just because you're on the glacier, right? Versus Everest, you're kind of on a path all the way up to base camp, but like you're walking on the glacier pretty much the whole time to K2
and,
base camp.
and the glacier's kind of covered with dirt and pebbles and stuff, so it kind of fools you because you think you're walking on dirt, but then all of a sudden you slip and you realize you're really on ice.
Yeah. No, it was so awesome. Did you have a big fly problem? There's one day there's so many flies around me and it was so annoying.
I did not. I think that had to do probably with the temperature this year. Maybe
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was warmer. Yeah.
Maybe they'd be lower, but yeah, this year I think it was when we were going from um Payu to Erdurkus or Erdurkus. No, yeah, to Erdur. I think that's how you say it. But yeah, I was just getting swamped with flies. It was unbelievable. There was like 10 on me at one point, just at the same time. I couldn't believe it.
Well, you hadn't taken a shower in a while, so I mean.
Yeah, very good. No, but there was like hoses that you could shower in, but it wasn't any soap. So
Hey, did you understand? I saw where you talked about that goat that had a baby goat. You do realize what those goats were being taken to base camp for, don't you?
yeah, I just didn't want to say in the video. People wouldn't be happy. But
I remember we had these two little goats, and I thought they were so cute. And then like a week later, we had goat for dinner, and I'm going, oh man.
brutal. I know we'd be at base camp and this cute cow would just pull up and just be standing there. He's
Oh.
he's he's not here to climb with us, guys.
One of my teammates, Matt Dupree, he's a pretty hardcore vegetarian, and so he almost convinced me to become a vegetarian after that experience.
Yeah, no, it's pretty brutal. But we did not eat the baby. Don't worry. I'm not sure exact. I don't know because I think we asked like because there's a liaison officer. I think
Yeah.
he knew about it, and then the cooks. I think we asked. I think they did bring supposedly. For some reason, I think they told us that the mom and kid actually went back, but I
Oh,
don't believe
good,
that.
good.
I don't believe the mom did. I bet you. I think maybe the child did, but would the child be able to survive without the mom goat? So maybe they did, because I'm assuming like it needs the mom for a little bit at least
Well,
to survive.
I hope so.
But I don't. I really hope because I don't think we ate it. I hope not. But you don't see what they prepare, so that would be really messed up. But
No,
I
no.
think they survived.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about is that like on, I think it was like day one or day two, I saw you filling up your Nalgene from a stream or from a rock, from a water coming up off of rocks. And then a couple of days later, you get really sick. Was there a correlation there?
Well, I don't know. Everybody had the same water. I think everybody, you're going to get GI sick at one point on any of these trips. It's impossible to avoid. It's like 90% chance
I
you're
agree.
going to
I agree.
get it at some point. Everybody else got it when we got to base camp. I got mine on the trek. Unfortunately, I was the only one to really feel it on the trek in, but most people got it when they're at base camp. But everybody drank that water, I think, that we got it from. And Terray, some people had pills. I was just using a Steri pen, but there's like half of us just using Steri pens, and I'd hope my body's not weak enough to just be the only one feeling it. So who knows? You really don't know. It could be the water, it could be the food you ate, it could be someone else sick. It's just like you just gotta deal with it and move forward.
I think you're absolutely right, though. I mean, I love when guys say, oh, we run a really great expedition and no one ever gets sick on our expedition. It's like that's not true. Everybody
Yeah.
gets some form of GI. I remember I was in the fetal position on the Baltero for 24
Oh
hours,
my gosh.
because I was just I was throwing up. It was coming out everywhere, and that's a good segue into the porters because I mean those porters absolutely took care of me. I mean they were
Oh
just
my gosh.
fantastic.
I mean, they're great guys and they're just so strong. I mean, it was crazy. So one of our teammates named Casey, he's like I forget what it's called, but he like travels around the world and like does nursing and stuff for like nonprofit. But some of the because it was nice we had him on the team because some of the our porters and some of the other porters like they go through a day of portering and I guess maybe the pack was uncomfortable on them and they just have like huge like
So
rashes or something going on and it was like really bad looking. Um, and we'd be like, okay, like you're good, like yeah, don't go more. And then we'd fix them up and everything, but they'd be like, okay, I'm good for tomorrow. It's like, dude, holy, it's some of the stuff that they're like not putting themselves through. They gotta make money and everything, but which is their motivation. But it was just wild that they were just pushing through that type of stuff. I was like, I could not. This is
and
next
they're
level.
in canvas tennis shoes also, or running
Oh
shoes.
yeah, yeah, it's
I mean,
crazy.
you've got your $100 trekking shoe, $1 Chinese made canvas shoe.
Yeah. And it's not even like it's just on the trek they do that because at to ABC too, they just wear random street shoes from base camp to ABC because they got to carry stuff up there sometimes. So they're literally jumping over some crevasses because it was really dry this year. So they're like it was actually a few parts in ABC where like there were some holes and it was pretty messed up in there. And you actually and I'm sure you remember, there's some slopes you have to climb. The glacier gets a little bit messed up over there. They're just doing it perfectly fine in
Yeah.
street shoes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just think they don't get a lot of publicity because they're doing really the background work, and so I think it's good to give them a big shout out. I know that when I came out, I was in really bad shape, but when I came out, I found the porter that took care of me when I got sick, and gave him a tip, and also I gave him all my socks. He wanted socks.
Nice. So I didn't actually film the back end of the trip, but I'm sure you remember going over the G pass coming down that. I mean, they just do that in socks because Yeah, because it's so to stick to the glacier when they are going down, or to ABC, they put socks on their shoes so they can like traverse over the glacier. It sticks to them. It's like their crampons.
Yeah.
They just put socks on it. So did you see like the giant pile? You were there when it was less commercialized and probably way less people. But coming down from the G Pass, there's just like an entire field of socks there because like they would come down, use socks, and then just toss them on this like gigantic field of sock.
That's like the same thing on Carson's Pyramid. It's so rocky and sharp that when you come down, your gloves are destroyed. So there's this big pile of gloves at the base
Oh
of the mountain.
gosh.
So, it's kind of like, again,
Yeah.
the glove memorial. Um, so on the trek, you made it up there. You guys went from Concordia to K2 base camp in one push. You didn't stop at Broad Peak base camp. You were you were a hurting puppy. Just looking at
Oh
your
yeah.
video, I mean, you said every step was painful.
No, it really was. Like, I mean, that was physically the hardest day of the whole trip, even though we didn't have many hard days. But yeah, it's if you're ever very sick and have GI issues, if you go try and go for a run, it's like you're just going to be going really slow, and if you go over a certain heart rate, you just feel like you're going to throw up. So that's kind of what I was experiencing. And it was a long day. Fortunately, it wasn't too much elevation gain, but yeah, I think it took us 5 hours, I would guess. But it was nice. Well, it was nice because I knew that was the last day. But versus, on the Everest Base Camp trek, it's you can stop at a tea house if you want,
Right.
get some juice in, it'll keep you going. But we were just out there. I was like, and then you feel like you're slowing down the team. But
That's another thing though that when you compare the Everest trek versus a K2 trek, that like you say, there's no facilities, there's no tea houses. I mean, there's nothing. That you've got those camps, and a couple of the early ones have some toilets, which is really good, but the rest of them is pretty much you're using wag bags and just kind of
yeah.
shooting from the hip. So that's wrong. That's the wrong thing to say about that. Sorry about that. But so you on your video, you talk a little bit about the first views of K2. At first, it was kind of shrouded in clouds. You really couldn't see it. But when you got your first full view of the Savage Mountain, of this pyramid, what went through your mind?
Yeah, you finally get the magnitude of it is, I mean, you see pictures of it, so I was kind of aware of what it looked like, but I mean, it's one of the most beautiful mountains I've ever seen or even embarked on to climb. Because Everest, yeah, you can see it, but it's kind of blocked by the west shoulder of it, and then you don't even really see it on the way in to its full majesty because Nuptse's right there. But like K2 is just right in front of you, just standing, hovering above you. Uh, Scary.
I remember letting my eye trace the right-hand skyline, which is, basically the Abruzzi route, and you just kind of look at it, and it just goes, starts steep, and it gets steeper, and it gets steeper.
Yeah, that's the cool part about it is you can see the whole route from base camp. It's super sweet.
But you can't see the Serac. That's the thing that is kind of hidden because it's back around the corner a little bit.
Yeah, we actually were able to get some beta on it before anybody else because from Karut you could see it. So
Ah,
that like where we got to on Karut you could see the Serac, which is pretty funny. It was small this year. It was pretty mellow.
so
Obviously, because there wasn't as much snow.
let's talk about Karut. So mountain has been climbed before, but you guys did an unclimbed route.
Um, from what I understand, it's an unclimbed peak. Nobody's been to the top, but people have apparently attempted Karut Pyramid. I forget if there's two Karuts, and we just did Karut Pyramid.
That's a good
But
point. There are several. There's like a Karut, like Annapurna, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's several of them.
okay, yeah. Well, and I think what we did was called Karut Pyramid. And yeah, nobody's ever been to the top. So it's kind of, there's like a higher one to the left, and then to the right, there's Karut Pyramid. But no, it's just rockfall so bad on K2. So um, usually you'd have to like be on a different program to do the unclimbed peak with Madison. But they just said, all right, you know what? We have it all here. K2 is way too dangerous. Let's all head over there. And we ended up not summiting because it's unclimbed peak. We didn't have too much beta. And also, I mean, we had a route in mind that we could take, but conditions were still a little bit weird and um it would have required some more like work, like go back up and everything like that. We got to 20,400 feet, I think, which isn't crazy. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Lobuche basically. So
How did when you started, were you actually climbing on it? I mean, you guys were roped up or
the Sherpas had fixed it prior
oh, they
actually.
fixed it. Cool.
Yeah, they were like those guys were hustling getting up that thing in like a matter of only a couple days or something. They had fixed pretty much the majority of the routes up to where we got. So yeah, it was awesome. But I still had it was so warm though that it was a little bit sketchy with the I actually still had my ice axe out. So I was like kind of Jumaring and then using my ice axe still just because I was worried that some of the anchors could slip out because the ice screws were just they were in there, but
Just
with the
got
warming temps, it was a
yeah,
little scary.
they can bob in and out, especially they can melt out. That's the problem with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that must have felt good though. I mean, you had your crampons on and your boots on and your ice axe out and you're actually climbing, not just sitting around base camp.
It was sweet. Yeah, I'm actually editing. I'm actually missing a video today because I did too much traveling yesterday, so I'm breaking my daily upload schedule. Sorry. I know you were looking forward to them. But tomorrow I'll post our trek to it and then the day after I post our climb of that. And it's a pretty cool route. You get on top of the ridge and there's a decent amount of loose rock, but you're kind of just traversing over the ridge and there's a couple parts with some cool like ice climbing actually where like you had to really kick in. So
Nice, nice. But so that was your high point then. Well, let's see. Yeah, because Camp One is around 1905 and you were 24,
I
20,000.
guess so.
So that was your high point. Yeah. And then so from there you could look over and see K2 pretty much just right there in
Ooh,
front of
it
you.
was huge. Yeah, it gave a whole new perspective of it too because you saw like all the way on the other. I'm not sure what face that would be, but towards China, just
Did you ever have a moment
wild.
when you're at base camp? Again, it was a roller coaster of emotions and stuff, and you guys passed the time a lot by, watching movies and picking up trash and those things. But did you ever just walk out and like especially at near twilight, as the sun was setting, and just look at the mountain and just see
For
the
sure.
golden hour and
Yeah, you could see the like the sun. It's what is it like the Polish magic line or something? You can see like the that route just getting the sun shined on it. It's such a cool view. But no, I think the nighttime was the coolest because obviously it's so bright out there. The stars are just shining on the mountain. We had a couple full moons because we were there for so long. And just yeah, it was the whole mountain you could see in the nights just looming over you. It was absolutely beautiful. I have pictures from it. I gotta send those to you, but it was like
yeah.
it's cool being out. It's so peaceful. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, you think about how remote you are, and you're on the border with China, and right there next to Afghanistan, and just in that part of the world is something that most people never experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just felt really grateful that I had even the spirit, the opportunity to go do that because it was growing up in Memphis, Tennessee, it wasn't something people from Memphis do. So.
Massachusetts as well. We're in the same boat. We had a Dunkin' Donuts uptown, and that was our view.
But you live near the high point of Massachusetts, though, didn't you?
The high point? What, like the highest peak?
Highest point in Massachusetts.
Um, I don't know. It was what the mountain nearby was like 3,000 feet tall or something.
Yeah, that's what you did laps on to train for Everest. So.
Oh no, not even. That one was like a little bit far away. Where I trained for Everest was on this other one called Mount Wachusett.
Oh,
That
okay.
one only that one's wait, so what is the definition of a mountain? It needs to be how much feet? How many
It
feet?
it depends on what the prominence. It depends. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they literally threw rocks on top so they could call it a mountain. Like it wasn't tall. It was like 850 gain to the top from the trailhead I started at. So I just went up and down all the time. It was fun. I just visited home and I went back there. I was like, good times. Not really, but I much prefer training out here now in Washington.
Yeah.
So.
Did you feel like your training was sufficient? At least for what you did?
Absolutely. I mean, you would know this perspective, but yeah, from ABC to Camp One, we pushed up when we did go to attempt it
Yeah.
at
Let's
like
let's
six.
let's let's break that down. So you guys finally decided to go do that, and was that more of let's go have a look see, or were you trying to make a summit bid?
Yeah, so the reason that gave us enough reason to at least try was so the whole team had kind of left.
Right.
So now the Sherpas still had to go up anyway to go clean the camps because they had already stocked camps. So there was only Purba, Terray, and I, and then the two porters. So we had like a very small group, and also we could move for that reason. We wouldn't be kicking rocks on each other. We could stay really close to each other, mitigate kicking rocks on each other. Nobody else was going to be moving up with us. So we were waiting for everybody else to get above camp two, so nothing would kick down on us.
And nobody was coming
Um,
down either at that point.
yes, exactly, and we'd be watching for that just in case. But, um, but yeah, then we could just move super fast and hopefully get out of the rockfall. So for those reasons, we wanted to give it a try to one, see the routes, and two, do a little bit of climbing. But we could actually get a feel for it then and make an attempt. But yeah, after what we ended up seeing, the condition of the route after seeing it, we decided not to continue because it was just, like I said, so sketchy. But I mean, yeah, we didn't need to go up, but I'm glad we did. It was fun. It was a good time. Besides for the dodging of rocks, we did it from ABC to this was actually like brutal because I think I had a full pack. I didn't give anything to the porters just because I'm weird like that and I don't like giving up my gear.
Yep.
But I full pack. We got up to Camp One in 4.5 hours, which is
That's
pretty fast.
that's good
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
we were like hauling because it's you have a good amount of adrenaline kicking through you because the faster you get out of here, the safer you are. So we got up there pretty fast, left at 6, got there around like 10:30, and then just stayed up the whole night thinking. And then we made a decision to turn back. We came down at like 3 a.m. But there was one point where I was literally zone 4, zone 5 the whole time, just like
Whoa.
and like feeling like pretty like well, I didn't have it on my watch, but that's what I would assume. I have no idea, but like just every step, like I was breathe because the Sherpas are moving quick. Every step I was like breathing, like timing it, really focusing on my frequency of breaths, and that helped me like deal with the altitude, but also keep a pace that I could actually stay consistent with. That was fast. But at one point, we were all in a line, and that's what we were doing. Like Purba was taking on the lead, just like keeping an eye out for rocks. I mean, my hero right there.
Yeah.
But um, we started turning left more onto the ridge, and it was like, and I heard Trey's like, "All right, Ryan, like once we go on this ridge, it'll be a little more safe. So let's get to this." And I was like, "Okay." And then I was going to it, and like just as everybody turned left out of the way, so now there's nobody in front of me. There's like a rock that started coming down, and it was just as I was about to turn onto the ridge, but I like ducked, and that's when I heard one just fly by me. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's like you can't make that up." So the speed helps for sure in being a smaller team, but you're still always exposed to something.
So your heart rate was a steady between 180 and 200.
Okay. I don't know. I don't have like a watch, but I was definitely like, well, I did have a watch, but I wasn't checking it.
Yeah. Yeah. You were looking for rocks.
Yeah. I mean, I could probably look at the footage and I'm just like heaving the whole time. Like we were really trying to go as fast as we could. With the heavy pack, it's just so
Yeah.
much.
Were you surprised how steep it was? I mean, you saw it, but actually experiencing it, did that surprise you?
Yeah, you showed me the pictures and I was like, dang, that looks really fun. Like it is pretty steep. But yeah, no, I was pretty surprised. Some of the climbing was pretty cool actually. Some of the on the rock. Like obviously you're on Jumars and you just kind of like jug up them, but with the crampons, it was some cool mixed climbing, I guess, getting in there. So yeah, it was pretty steep. I mean, you can just tell the way the rocks pick up speed. It's like one of us would kick it and it would like literally 10 feet later it just slowly starts turning into a death machine as it goes down. That's just the visualization of how steep it is. Sometimes the phone or GoPro doesn't pick up the
Right.
degree angle of the slope, but you can see a rock. It just
Yeah.
start going Mach speed.
You got that perspective on it. Yeah. I still think you guys made exactly the right decision. And I'm just so thankful that you and Terry and Purba and the two porters all came down safely and really feel for the two people that lost their lives.
Yeah.
So, I'm happy that other people summited, good for them. But I think I wrote about this quite a bit about risk management. And, that's really the big thing on these mountains. Like on Amana Blanc, for example, somebody asked me to ask you, why did you go with the commercial team on Amana Blanc the first time?
Why didn't I?
Right.
Because it was, well, first of all, cheaper. I had a partner I could go with, and he was really experienced, so I felt pretty confident. But it's just like, I don't know, I just felt pretty confident in myself at this point. Like I had been doing a lot of training around here.
Right.
Everest, killed it on Everest. Um, but I wouldn't advise doing that for your first, fixed line
Right.
Himalayan expedition, right? But I just felt pretty confident in myself and I wanted to challenge myself, my own self-sufficiency. Obviously, you don't want to do anything stupid and then, okay, well, I'm screwed now because I went without a guide. But it was like, yeah, thought it would be a cool, unique challenge to do. Obviously, it's not crazy high. I'd been to that altitude solo before on Aconcagua, so it's different, but
I love when you say that, you want to be self-sufficient. I mean, that's really the goal, I don't have a problem going with commercial teams, but,
no, me neither.
you don't want to be that guy that, is always late and, needs extra hand holding and everything else. You want to be as
Yeah.
self-sufficient as you possibly can.
Yeah, that's actually another thing with I'm fine with recording around other people, but sometimes I do feel like there's times and places to record and not to, and like some people don't want to be in front of the camera all the time. I just do better when I'm either in a smaller group with people I'm really close with or I'm alone. It just kind of allows me to not think about this guy behind me and I can't stop for a second to record because he's walking behind me. It makes it so much easier in that way. So,
Yeah. But going back to the risk management for a second, when you were on AMA and you guys got up to Camp 2 and it was just blue ice, hard blue ice above, and that's when you decided to, not a good year to climb it.
oh wait, on Amidabon?
Yeah.
Oh no, I only got to camp one. Like
Oh, okay.
no, this was brutal. So this is like emotionally, this is why I really wanted to go back to. I was like, I cannot leave 2025 off like this. So we went to Ama de Blanc. I got d absolutely destroyed with GI issues or something on the front and back end. Um, and I didn't record the back end one because it was at the hotel right before my flight. I was like, this is brutal. But um, it's called the Yak and Yeti Hotel, and we were yakking all right. So, but
It's a
yeah,
great
we
hotel.
I literally got all of my gear, like Andrew and I, that's his name. We got all of our gear up to Camp One, and I went up there 3 times. He went up there twice. So we were all ready to go. And then we like went to make our summit push. The weather was pretty bad the whole time. There's no good summit windows visible. And like the ropes had now frozen into the rock and everything. And they would have to be either like refixed or just be really dangerous to climb on them. And we were just getting like snowed in and the weather got worse on the forecast, so we just called it. But yeah, it was just same thing, like horrible conditions. I think there was a summit like a week later, but I guess they were able to wait for a window, like some guided trip. But yeah, we just were like, these conditions suck. So, and Andrew had to go to work. So, but
So once again, I mean, what did you learn? You're learning to take what the mountain will give you. You're learning about risk management. You're learning that summit fever is real, but it can be
oh, it's
can be managed.
real, real. Like I said, that's the biggest realization was I would sit in base camp 10 and be like, oh damn, I actually really have summit fever right now. Because, especially when you have risk right in front of you and you're thinking to yourself, because I didn't have to think about that on Everest because it was pretty safe the year I did it. But K2 was like, oh wait, do I actually have summit fever right now? And is this actually something I need to reflect on?
That's I always say that women have excellent intuition and they know how to tap into that intuition. Guys, we stink at intuition. And we just like forge ahead and, just, we can do it, we can do it. And, but what you just described right there, that was, when you start tingling, that's your intuition. And you got to listen to that. And that's what you did so well on both of these climbs, on the Amanda Blanc climb and as well here on the K2 climb. So, these experiences are going into your climbing bank. and they're all deposits. And so the summits will come. That's not a problem. The summits will come if as you continue to do this. But the key is that you live to try another day. It's
Yeah.
it's the Teddy Roosevelt, the man in the arena. What counts is not the people on the sidelines that are second guessing you. But by and large, what I've seen in terms of feedback is that people were really happy and pleased for you and the whole Madison team that you guys made the right decision.
Yeah, that was super awesome to see everyone's support on it. I think a lot of people did. And I'm really glad once I do post the final video and everybody sees what happens. I really hope it does. Um, Because one thing I was thinking about, and yeah, sometimes you do have a clear intuition, but sometimes you have to think about it so much more. Like I've had times on Cascade Peaks out here, we talked about it one of our calls last time, like on Kaliton, we turned back because of a wind slab. As
Yeah.
soon as I stepped on that, I said, nope, we're leaving. Like this is so sketch. But K2 is like, oh my, there's so much more at play, higher stakes and everything. But one thing I was thinking about was yeah, I mean, a lot of people are watching these videos, and a lot of people, even though I just make them for my grandkids, a lot of people are starting to watch them. And a lot of them have gotten like inspired to go out and try climbing from my videos. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll make the summit, but people are gonna see like this bold mountaineer, and it's good to be bold sometimes, but risk taking when you knew there was bad, dangerous things happening on the mountains, and but you would summit and probably it would be inspiring. But like, I kept thinking about like No Shortcuts to the Top, which I was actually rereading again on that trip because we had so much time.
Ed
And
Feaser.
like I was thinking, yeah, I was just thinking about his book, and I thought, I wonder how many lives his book has saved from people being in similar situations and they didn't push on because you know, he turned back on this thing or he regretted doing this thing. And I thought that's a message I would rather put in my videos is like, guys, it's okay not to summit. You don't need to be some bold, crazy guy all the time on these peaks. Like if you want to be in it for a long time, you gotta be conservative and wait for the right opportunities. And that helped me. That's one of the things that has helped me a lot, like getting through it and I guess not coping, but
Now,
coming to peace with us turning back is I think it's going to be a great message for the all the people watching it and even myself and friends.
100%. And Ed is famous, and his quote is often plagiarized and not attributed to him, but he's the one that coined the phrase that the summit is optional, but the return is mandatory. I mean, that was his quote, and he used that after many years of climbing and not making it all the time. So,
Yep.
you know,
Keyword is mandatory, not just more important. It's like we will get home,
yeah,
but
yeah, exactly. Live to play another day.
absolutely.
Yep. So let's wrap this up. I know people want me to ask you, are you going to try again and what's next? But I'm not going to do that. I
Ah,
want to just savor the moment and just cherish the fact and celebrate the fact that you went there, you made a difference in terms of cleaning up the mountain. You did some climbing in Pakistan, which, not a lot of people get a chance to do, especially, at age 21. It didn't crush your desire to go climb as evidenced by going to Amanda Blom here in a month and a half with Justin. So, I I'm just really proud of you. So
thank you. Thank you so much. That's awesome that, yeah, you have that outlook. It is a lot of what's next questions and stuff like that. But the most important thing is learning and reflecting on what's happened and then go from there. But no, I appreciate it so much. I was messaging you so much while I was out there. You're giving me your little experiences that you've had. You had a lot that I didn't know about. You have a lot of past trauma, Alan. I was like, oh gosh. And by trauma, I mean like, yeah, you waited for like what mountain was that where you waited super long? Is like, did you wait for that snowstorm like 3 week long period of snowstorm to pass, or did you guys just turn back there?
well, I was on
What mountain was it?
that was Shishapangma
Fishpond.
that we had acclimatized, and so we were waiting, for the weather to clear up, and so we were all set to go for our summit push, and then we got the weather forecast that said you're going to have high winds and heavy snow for the next 2 months.
Oh, Tomb. Okay, that never mind. That's not waitable.
It was like I give up. Done.
Yeah,
You win, Mountain. You win.
I know exactly. It's yeah, it's
And
the
the same
same
thing
same
on
same thing.
Denali. I was at the high camp and spent 7 nights in a three-person tent with four people, waiting for the lenticulars to clear off. They never did. So, sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug. So,
For sure. Yeah. So those helped me a lot. I appreciate you sending those over and
yeah,
giving me some hope here and there and just helping me get back on my feet as well. So
yeah,
thank
no,
you.
man, that's what I'm here for. All right, all right, my man. Well, so train hard. Well, you didn't lose a lot of weight, did you?
No, I think I lost muscle, but I was the same weight. I couldn't, it
Yeah.
was, there's some nights where we were just so in the trenches and we just crack open into a Nutella and go wild. It's like lost all form of discipline. I'm not gonna lie.
God, you tell that is the biggest bang for the buck in terms of calories per spoonful. It's
I
just
know it was just like your brain is completely fried at this point and you're just trying to stimulate it. It's like, wait, no weather forecast? The weather forecast still sucks and we're gonna wait like 4 more days to see if it gets better and then we'll look at the forecast again and then decide if we want to go up. We're cracking into the Nutella.
now. See, now that was your coping mechanism, Nutella.
I, I think it actually was, which yeah, it's not great, but I guess we didn't lose weight, so
All
whatever.
right, my man. Hey, have a great time on Amana Blanc. It's a beautiful summit. You'll have views of Everest and Makalu that are just spellbinding. So be safe. Come back and let's do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. See you,
All
everybody.
right. Climb on.
The podcast on AlanArnette.com is sponsored by Summit Coach, helping aspiring climbers worldwide to reach their dreams.